Great. Well, maybe we can just go to the next slide whilst people join. So, thank you for joining our session today. Um, we do have this session available in a couple of other languages. So, if you would like to listen in either Portuguese or Spanish, then you can find these functions in the interpretation button. So, if you just go to the bottom of your screen and click interpretation, then you should be able to choose the channel that you want to listen to and the language that you want to listen in today. If we can go to the next slide. Couple of housekeeping points. If you would like to introduce yourself in the chat or either in the Padlet that I think Yolanda will share in a few seconds, then great to hear who we have joining us today, where you're from, or the organization that you're associated to. This session will include quite an extensive part of it will include answering your questions. And so if you do have any questions today, we do ask that you please use these in the Q&A function. So make sure to post your questions there. And then at the end of the session, we'll try and make sure to answer all questions that are raised. You, in the Q&A function, if you see a question that you would like to get answered, then you can vote this. And we'll try and answer questions in order of most upvotes. So do kind of read the questions that are there and try to refrain from asking a very similar question. Instead, vote questions that are similar. In terms of getting involved, the Q&A will be the main opportunity to get involved today. So we will tell you about how to do this. And again, please do bring as many questions as you'd like to this session. And then this session will be recorded and we'll be able to share slides and the recording after the session. So please don't worry, we'll make sure to pass those out by email in the coming days so that you have access to both the slides and this session. If we can just go on to the next slide. So the agenda today, so this is our frequently asked questions session for the Ocean Community Grants. We'll start with a short welcome and overview and a bit of an overview of Ocean and the community grants requirements. We then got a quick recap of some of the common mistakes that we've seen either this round or in previous rounds. And then we've got some frequently asked questions relating to a couple of different areas. So the types of projects or the application requirements, the financial and budget aspects of your application, or kind of general questions associated with Ocean. And then it's your opportunity to ask us any questions. So we'll try and make sure that there's plenty of time to answer any questions that you might have to ask us today. So joining us today is Yolanda Sanchez, our Fund Engagement Manager. Rachel Woods is on the call to help with any finance related questions, and she is the Ocean Finance Administrator. And we'll be joined by Valentina Patti shortly, who is the Ocean Grant Administrator. And then we're also joined by Sarah DeGiorgio this afternoon, and then myself, Billy Curry, am the Program Manager for Ocean. So I think Yolanda has already posted this link in the chat, but if you would like to introduce yourself on our Padlet, then this is a great opportunity to help support you with networking, finding partnerships, or just supporting you to connect with other people in this space. So do have a look at the Padlet, take a look through and consider adding your name or a bit of information about yourself or commenting on other people's that you would like to try and connect with. I think the link is in the chat, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. Great. If we can go to the next slide. So to jump straight into community grants, and we will be focusing this session on Ocean's community grants. If the partnership grants have got separate webinars, so if you're considering applying for a partnership grant, then we recommend you register for one of those. But we just wanted to cover at the start of the session the different eligibility requirements that will allow you to apply for an Ocean Community Grant. So in terms of types of projects, all projects applying to Ocean for a community grant must support a reduction in multidimensional poverty and must also positively impact the marine environment. So these are the two kind of key criteria in terms of the type of project that you can apply with. If you can demonstrate that your project will be supporting reduction in multidimensional poverty and positively impacts in the marine environment, then this type of project is of interest to us. And there's lots of information around these two areas in our guidance, along with our scoring criteria that I think we'll touch upon in a second. In terms of project countries, we have a list of eligible countries in our guidance notes and available via the link on the slides. Your project must be implemented in one of the eligible countries on this list to be eligible for funding. So please do make sure that your country is on the list before you consider submitting your application. In terms of lead organisations that are eligible to apply, these can be local, regional, or national organisations. But for community grants, all lead organisations must be legally registered in the same country as the project is being implemented in. So please do make sure that if you're applying for a community grant, that you are a national, regional, or local organisation and you are registered in the same country of your project. We're looking for, well, expecting lead organisations to be small to medium sized, and all lead organisations applying to Ocean Community Grants must have an annual income of less than £1 million. And that's calculated as an average of the past 2 years of the organisation's accounts. And lead organisations can be a non-profit organisation, academic or research institute, private sector organisation, business or business association, but they cannot be a foreign government or its agency, or a UK government or its agency, or an intergovernmental agency. In terms of grant size, you can apply for up to a maximum grant of £250,000 for under an Ocean Community Grant. But please keep in mind our requirement that the annual value requested in any given year must not exceed 50% of the lead organisation's annual income. So once you've developed your budget, please do make sure that you meet this requirement, because otherwise your application might be deemed ineligible and not progress to the technical assessment by the expert committee. And then final 2 points, project duration. So your project must be a minimum of 1 year in length, starting in November or December 2025. And it can be up to a maximum or a final end date of up to 31st of March 2029. So looking at about 3.5 years maximum time. All projects must finish though by 31st of March 2029. And then partners are not required for an Ocean Community Grant, but we do encourage you to consider whether partnering with local community groups or organisations is appropriate for your project, as these can add great value to your project design and implementation. So as mentioned, we've just got our round 2 scoring criteria or selection criteria on the screen. This is the criteria that all community grant applications will be assessed against as part of the technical assessment. So if you successfully meet the eligibility criteria and progress to be assessed by the Ocean Expert Committee, then they will score you against these 4 areas. So you've got technical merit, marine conservation impact, poverty reduction, and community empowerment. I won't go into all of these points, but we do highly recommend that you have a look at the scoring criteria, the selection criteria in detail in our application guidance, because this is effectively what you need to do to demonstrate and score well against each of these areas. So it's really important you consider this in detail and really try and make sure that you're meeting these different areas. In addition to the selection criteria, we have 3 different assessment criteria for round 2, and these criteria apply to evaluate each application against a kind of expected standard that we anticipate Ocean Community Grants to have to meet. So the 3 areas are gender equality, disability and social inclusion, value for money, and then upper middle income criteria. In terms of our GEDSI scoring, we expect all community grants to come out at a GEDSI responsive level at minimum from the assessment. And ideally, we're looking for community grants to be GEDSI empowering or striving to be GEDSI empowering where possible. In terms of value for money, when assessed against the value for money criteria, we expect all community grant projects to meet at least a medium value for money score. And then when evaluated against the upper middle income country criteria, we expect all community grants to pass this criteria. This is a pass-fail. So if you're working in an upper middle income country, then we do expect that you pass this criteria. And just on those, you do need to meet those to try and to be successful in kind of your application. Just with regards to round two, we've got some key dates to just go through quickly. So hopefully you're all aware that Community Grant Stage 1 opened on the 6th of January 2025 and will be closing in just under 2 weeks now on the 17th of February 2025 at 23:59 GMT. Please make sure that you get your application submitted ahead of this deadline because once this deadline passes, the application portal will close and you won't be able to submit your application. And if you do miss this deadline, then unfortunately you are unable to submit your application. So we highly recommend that you try and submit your application at least one day in advance so that if you do have any issues, then we can obviously help via the help desk and try and rectify any issues you're experiencing. Otherwise, if you leave it to the very last minute, it's highly unlikely we'll be able to respond in such a short notice, and it might cause you to be unable to submit your application. So do try and get it in advance of the closing date. Stage two is by invite only. Oops, sorry, if we can just go back a slide, thank you. Stage two is by invite only, and will open around May or June 25 and close on the 30th of June 2025. And then we're expecting grants to be awarded around October, November later this year, and projects to start between November and December. So it's just a bit of an overview of the round two application window.